Hey, it's me, Mrs. V, and welcome to my channel. Hello everyone, today's video is titled, What are your accommodations? If you haven't watched the video I shared before this one titled Understanding Your IEP, that would be a great video to watch first, just to give you a little bit of a better understanding about the word accommodations. If you are curious about your accommodations at school, that most likely means that you are on an IEP or an individualized education plan. If you have an adult or a guardian that could help you watch the previous videos, that would be very helpful. Or maybe you're here because you know what your IEP is and you are a little more curious about the different supports you have in place. So let's get talking about them. This video will help you identify and understand the accommodations available to you. Accommodations and modifications, those words are kind of big words. Let's talk about them a little bit more. For students with disabilities, the right accommodations and modifications can be as important to school success as the IEP goals. So a definition of these words, an accommodation changes how a student accesses the information, participates in school activities, or demonstrates their learning or showing what they know. Accommodations do not change the curriculum or what your teacher is teaching you. Modifications change what is being taught or what a student is expected to learn or demonstrate. So in this case, a modification does change what your teacher is teaching you. Let's look at some examples of accommodations. So you've heard this word, you've heard what an IEP is, you've heard the word accommodations. You may have heard it referred to as a support. Some examples could be adjusting the amount of work. So maybe you have a homework assignment, or maybe you have work to do, but your teacher doesn't have you work on all of it at one time. They might break it up. They might have you start, do a little bit, take a break, do a little bit more, take a break, a little bit like that. They break it up so there's not so much work in one sitting. Another accommodation, your teacher might allow extra time. It might be helpful for you to have a little extra time or a lot of extra time to help you finish your assignments. You might also have scheduled breaks throughout the day. Maybe it's hard for you to sit for a very long time, and it helps you to go take a little break, whether that be a walking break, maybe you need a calming break to help you refocus on what is being taught. Another accommodation, your teacher might need to adapt the assignments. So maybe your teacher gives you an assignment or a project where you need to cut out materials. Maybe it's hard for you to use scissors. Maybe that's a skill you're still working on. So a way that a teacher could make an accommodation or support you better is they could have those materials cut out ahead of time for you so that you don't have to take time or get frustrated with that part, and you can be at the same pace as your peers. Maybe the project is to cut and glue, so maybe your teacher can give you or have a friend help you cut the materials out, and then you can start gluing when everyone else is. There's other supports your teachers can give you. Like I already mentioned, they might have you have the materials cut out ahead of time, or maybe they'll sit with you and cut them out with you, or maybe you could take turns cutting. You cut a little bit and then I'll cut. And that's just one example. Maybe you need a change in the setting. So maybe you need to work in a smaller room with less distraction. So maybe your classroom is really busy and you need an extra space, especially when it's time to do work. You need a smaller room, maybe with some quiet music, and not a bunch of busy kids around you. Maybe that helps you work better. Another accommodation could be an audio book or a book. Instead of reading a physical book and looking at it, maybe it's better for you to listen to the words in the book, or maybe you use an iPad you look at the words on the screen and then you also hear the words being read. Or like this, maybe your teacher can have you watch a video. Maybe you're learning about a certain topic. Maybe it's better for you to have the teacher teach you, but then also maybe it helps for you to watch a video to see it demonstrated a different way. Accommodations can look different for every student. Let's look at some examples of modifications. Like I said before, a modification changes what's being taught. An example could be if we're talking about math content, math curriculum, math material. Maybe your teacher and your class are working on telling time. To make a modification, your teacher might have you only work on telling time to the hour while other students are telling time, including minutes. So they might change what you are focusing on. Maybe you're eventually you'll work on the minutes, but first you're really just going to focus in on telling time to the hour. Another example could be your spelling test. Your list of spelling words might be modified or changed. Maybe you only need to learn 8 spelling words for that week instead of doing 15, because 15 might feel like a lot, and it might be hard for you to remember all those when it comes time to take your spelling test at the end of the week. So your teacher and parent might modify that by having you only test on 8 instead of all 15. Let's look at how your parents and guardians can help you with this. When you're at home, your parents can pay attention to what works well for you and what feels right. So maybe they're helping you with your homework and they notice that, oh, it really helps when your parent checks in on you frequently just to make sure you're on track and reminds you that, okay, if you're having a hard time, you can ask for help, raise your hand. Maybe you can practice raising your hand at home to get your parents' attention. And that's a skill that you can practice at school. When something is hard, you're having a hard time, maybe you need to just raise your hand and your teacher can come help you. If your parents or guardians pay attention to that, they can let your teacher know about these things and they can make suggestions about how to support you better at school. So your teachers are always there to help with this too. We are all on a team. So if something works for you at home and your parents know about it, you can work together to make sure your teacher knows what you need as well. It is so important to ask about your accommodations and modifications. So now that we went through quite a few examples, don't be afraid to talk to your parents or your teachers about these. Remember, these supports are based on your changing needs to help you do your best. And what works well for you might not be the same for everyone else. And it's okay to need something different. Now let's end with a fun fact. My favorite season is fall. So out of all the seasons we have here in Minnesota, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall is my favorite. What's yours? Leave me a comment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one.